Marcus Aurelius once said, "You must protect your soul more carefully than your body." But what if the person destroying your soul is the one you sleep next to? In this video, we'll uncover 10 things women say that seem harmless, but are silent weapons. If you ignore these signs, you're not just risking your relationship, you're sacrificing your peace, your power, and your purpose. 1. I'm busy right now. You've sent that message before. Maybe it was a good morning text, a meme that reminded you of her, something simple, something kind, but it sat there, unread, unanswered, for hours. You check your phone again, still nothing. So you wait, and while you're waiting, your mind plays games. Maybe she's working, maybe she's just tired, maybe I'm overthinking. Then Instagram loads. There she is, posting stories, hanging with friends, replying to comments, resharing memes. She's not in a meeting. She's not overwhelmed. She's just not choosing you. At 10:52 p.m., your phone vibrates. Sorry, I've just been really busy today. And suddenly you feel like an idiot for hoping, because you weren't talking to her. You were just talking to her when she had nothing better to do. Let's be clear, this isn't about needing attention. It's about recognizing where you truly stand in someone's life. And Stoicism cuts through illusions like this. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. You can't control how often she texts you. You can't control how important she makes you feel, but you can control how long you tolerate being someone's afterthought." A Stoic man doesn't beg for presents. He observes effort. He watches patterns. And he leaves when he's no longer respected, not out of spite, but out of principle. If you keep waiting for her to find time for you, she'll keep finding ways not to. So let her be busy. Let her swim in the chaos she chose over you. And you walk calmly, silently, powerfully toward someone who sees you as a priority, not a placeholder, because a woman who won't make time for you doesn't deserve a minute of your soul. 2. You're too sensitive. Let me paint the picture. You're sitting on the couch, scrolling in silence. Your day's been brutal. Your boss snapped at you in front of the team. You've kept it in all day. The frustration, the humiliation, the knot in your gut. And now, finally, you open up. You tell her what happened. You expect at least a moment of support, but she laughs just a little and says, "Wow, you're really sensitive, huh?" Suddenly, the weight doesn't just stay on your chest. It gets heavier, because now you're not just dealing with stress. You're dealing with shame for having emotions. And here's what hurts the most. If you had kept quiet, she'd say, "You're emotionally unavailable." But if you open up, she says you're too soft. As a man, you walk a tightrope. Show strength. You're called cold. Show feeling. You're called weak. But Stoicism teaches you something radical. It teaches you that emotions don't make you weak. They're signals. It's how you respond to them that defines your strength. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Reacting doesn't mean exploding. It means knowing when someone's dismissing your reality and walking away when your humanity is being mocked. So here's the brutal truth. If a woman makes you feel small every time you feel something real, she's not building a relationship. She's building a cage. A Stoic man doesn't suppress his emotions. He studies them. He honors them. But he never begs for validation from someone who confuses openness with weakness. Let her call you sensitive, because what she's really saying is this: "Your emotions make me uncomfortable, so I'd rather mock them than meet them." That's not partnership. That's performance. And you don't need to play that role anymore. Real strength is walking away, not with anger, not with ego, but with the quiet confidence of a man who knows his depth is not a flaw, but his greatest asset. 3. My ex used to do that. It starts small. You're at the kitchen counter chopping onions for dinner. You're smiling, thinking she'll appreciate the effort. Then she walks by, peeks at your cutting technique, and says it, casually, like it's nothing. My ex used to cut them thinner. It looked way better. You pause. You force a laugh. But deep down, something shifts. You weren't trying to compete. You were just trying to share a moment. But suddenly, you're no longer cooking with her. You're being compared to someone who isn't even here anymore. And it doesn't stop there. You bring her coffee. My ex used to get oat milk. You suggest a road trip. We did that once. It was amazing with him. She's not reminiscing. She's benchmarking. And you're the product she's still unsure about. Here's what no one tells you. When a woman constantly brings up her aches, you are not dating her. You are auditioning. You're walking through a minefield of old memories, always one step away from not measuring up. And soon, you don't even realize it, but you're changing your jokes, your clothes, your tone of voice, all to fit the ghost of a man you never met. But the Stoics knew something powerful about the past. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Marcus Aurelius. The past is not meant to be forgotten, but it must never be worshipped. A Stoic man does not compete with what's gone. He stands in what is. If she cannot stop looking backward, she will never see who's standing right in front of her. So here's the truth. If she keeps comparing you to her ex, it's because she never fully left him, emotionally, mentally, maybe even spiritually. You are not a repair project. You are not a distraction. And you sure as hell are not a better version of the man who hurt her. Walk away, not because you're jealous, but because you're awake. Because while she's busy living in the past, you've got a future to build. And it doesn't include being a shadow in someone else's love story. 4. It's your fault. At first, it's subtle. She snaps at the waiter. You get uncomfortable. Later, you bring it up gently, and she says, "Well, you just made me feel stressed. That's why I was upset." You let it slide. Then she forgets your birthday. You're disappointed, and she says, "If you didn't make everything about you, I wouldn't have forgotten." You see the pattern now. Every mistake she makes somehow becomes your fault. And the most dangerous part, you begin to believe her. You start saying sorry for things you didn't do. You explain yourself when you did nothing wrong. You replay conversations, trying to find out where you went wrong, when the truth is, you didn't. This isn't accountability. This is psychological warfare. And she's winning because you're too busy blaming yourself to see the manipulation. Stoicism gives you your clarity back. Epictetus said, "People are not disturbed by things, but by the views they take of them." If her view is that she's never wrong, you'll always be the villain in her story. But here's the kicker. You don't need to stay in someone else's fiction. You can write your own reality. A Stoic man is not afraid to own his mistakes, but he is also not a sponge for someone else's guilt. He reflects. He adjusts. But he never bends into self-betrayal just to keep a woman emotionally regulated. If she cannot say, "That was my fault, I'm sorry," then she cannot love like an adult. She only knows how to shift, distort, and deflect. You weren't made to carry blame you didn't earn. And the longer you hold it, the heavier it gets, until your soul starts breaking under the weight of someone else's denial. So drop it, all of it, and walk away with the quiet power of a man who finally realized you're not hard to love. You were just with someone who refused to love with honesty. 5. You always mess things up. It doesn't start as abuse. It starts as little comments. You bring her flowers. She says, "Why'd you pick these? They don't even match the room." You plan a weekend trip. She replies, "You didn't even check the weather?" You tell a story at a gathering. She interrupts to correct a detail you got slightly wrong. You smile through it, but deep down, a voice starts whispering, "Maybe I do mess things up. Maybe I'm not enough." That's how it begins. 1,000 little cuts, each one framed as just being honest, each one framed as helping you grow. But you're not growing, you're shrinking, because no matter how hard you try, you are never quite right. Here's what Stoicism teaches that most men forget. Don't explain yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Seneca said, "He who is brave is free." But here's the uncomfortable truth. You're not free. You're constantly second-guessing every word, every move, every choice. That's not a relationship. That's a slow execution of your self-worth. And it's always the same excuse. "I'm just trying to help you be better." But real help feels like support, not sabotage. Real love sees your flaws but reminds you daily that you're still worthy, still seen, still respected. If you're with someone who only points out what's wrong but never uplifts what's right, you're not being loved, you're being micromanaged. A Stoic man doesn't need applause, but he does require peace. And there is no peace in a home where you walk on eggshells just to avoid criticism. So the next time she says, "You always mess things up," you say silently, maybe even just to yourself, "No, I've just been too patient with someone who only sees the worst in me." Then you stand up. You leave the room. You leave the dynamic. You leave the war you never started. Because your life is not a project for someone else to manage. It's a path only you can walk, proudly, imperfectly, completely. 6. I have no one else but you. It sounds romantic the first time. She's sitting across from you, eyes filled with emotion. She tells you her story. Broken family, absent friends, past betrayals. You feel for her. You lean in. And then she says it. "I have no one else but you." You freeze. Your chest tightens. Something in you shifts. Because now, this isn't just love anymore. It's obligation. That's the trap. What starts as empathy slowly becomes emotional debt. Every time she spirals, she runs to you. Every time something goes wrong in her life, she expects you to fix it. Not talk through it. Not grow from it. Fix it. And if you can't, she breaks down and says again, "You're all I have." Now it's your fault she's hurting. Now it's your job to save her. But here's the thing. You're not a savior, you're a man. And those are not the same thing. Stoicism draws the line where most men won't. It teaches that compassion and codependence are not the same. Epictetus warned, "Don't become a slave to another's sorrow." That doesn't mean you don't care. It means you understand the difference between helping someone stand and carrying them so long that you forget how to walk on your own. And here's what's worse. She might not be doing this maliciously. She may actually believe she has no one but you. But if someone cannot stand without leaning entirely on you, they will pull you down just to stay upright. Love is not drowning together. Love is learning how to swim side by side. So the next time she says, "I have no one else but you," you need to ask yourself, then who do I have? Because if the answer is no one, because all my energy goes into holding her together, then you're not in a relationship. You're in emotional servitude. And a Stoic man knows he cannot build peace for others while he's being torn apart in silence. So walk away, not with anger, with clarity, because being someone's everything should never mean losing everything you are. 7. It was nothing serious. You find the messages by accident. They're not explicit, but they're not innocent either. Winks, inside jokes, Late night replies. You confront her calmly. She shrugs and says, "It was nothing serious." Those 4 words cut deeper than any confession, because they don't just deny wrongdoing, they deny your right to feel hurt. You start wondering if you're overreacting. Maybe you're too controlling, too jealous, too insecure. No, you're just human. You expected honesty, loyalty, emotional safety. But instead, you're being told that betrayal is only real if it crosses a technical line. Marcus Aurelius warned us about self-deception. The first rule is to keep an untroubled spirit. The second is to look things in the face and know them for what they are. She crossed a line. She flirted, emotionally connected, and kept it secret. That's not nothing. That's the beginning of everything falling apart. And here's the worst part. When someone downplays your pain, they're not sorry. They're just sorry they got caught. A Stoic man doesn't scream. He doesn't beg. He sees reality and acts accordingly, because love without truth is just manipulation, and trust once cracked never sounds the same. So if she says, "It was nothing serious," you say, in your mind, in your heart, then neither is this relationship. And you walk, not because it broke you, but because you refuse to be chipped away piece by piece. 8. You can't take a joke. It happens during a group dinner. You make a small mistake telling a story. She cuts in, laughs. You always screw that part up. Everyone laughs. You laugh too, but deep down, you feel small. Later, in private, you tell her it bothered you. She smiles and says, "Oh my God, you're so sensitive. You can't take a joke." And that's how emotional erosion gets dismissed as humor. You start bracing yourself before you speak. You start avoiding vulnerability because every weakness becomes a punchline. This isn't about a joke. This is about respect. And if she disguises disrespect with a laugh, it says more about her than it does about you. A Stoic man doesn't flinch at mockery, but he doesn't tolerate cruelty either. Epictetus taught, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit. And here's the truth. When you keep tolerating jokes that belittle you, your silence becomes permission. Real relationships allow room for humor, but never at the cost of dignity. So next time she laughs at your expense and says, "Relax, it's just a joke," you reply, silently, internally, "I'm not laughing, and I'm done pretending this is funny." Because real love never makes you the clown in someone else's show. 9. You're not allowed to. You used to love Friday nights, gym, cards with the boys, catching up with your brother. Now, every invitation is a negotiation. She doesn't scream, she doesn't forbid, she just says, "You're not going out again, are you? I don't like you around him. Why do you always need space away from me?" So you cancel plans, stay home, keep peace. But here's what's happening. She's not asking for connection, she's demanding control. It creeps in. You slowly trade your hobbies, your friends, your alone time for her comfort. And soon, you don't recognize your life anymore. Marcus Aurelius led armies, ran an empire, held the weight of a nation, but he still carved time for solitude, for self-mastery, for the freedom of the mind. He said, "A man's worth is no greater than his ambitions." So ask yourself, are you still your own man? Or have you become a version of yourself she molded? A Stoic man honors love, but he never sacrifices his identity for it. Because love without freedom is not devotion, it's a slow erasure. So when she says, "You're not allowed to," you remind yourself, I wasn't made to be caged. I was made to choose. And you choose to breathe again, to live again, to be a man, not a pet. 10. You're cheating on me, aren't you? It comes out of nowhere. You're laughing at your phone. She looks over and says, "Who are you texting? Another girl?" You tell her it's your coworker. She doesn't believe you. Next time, she asks to check your phone, then your social media, then accuses you of acting different lately. You're loyal, but she's still suspicious. Why? Because people project what they fear or what they do. Soon you're defending yourself for crimes you never committed. You feel like a criminal in a relationship where no laws were broken, except trust. You stop texting people. You act overly cautious. You live in constant anxiety, trying to prove a truth that should be obvious. But here's the Stoic truth. He who constantly defends himself condemns himself. If you're loyal and she still can't rest, you are not the problem. Her insecurity is. And no amount of reassurance can fix someone who doesn't trust their own judgment. So when she says, "You're cheating on me, aren't you?" you don't get angry. You don't fight. You look her in the eye, and in your mind, you say, "If you need chaos to feel loved, then I'm not your man, because I only offer peace." Then you walk, because a relationship without trust is just emotional surveillance disguised as intimacy. Brother, if you've heard even just one of these phrases, don't ignore the warning, because words are never just words. They're clues, whispers from the universe, red flags and soft voices. And if you don't pay attention, you won't just lose the relationship, you'll lose yourself. A Stoic man doesn't beg to be chosen, he chooses himself. He doesn't try to fix people who don't want to change. He fixes his focus and reclaims his peace. So if this episode made something click in you, don't just nod and scroll. Reflect, act, and most importantly, remember who you are. If this resonated, don't keep it to yourself. Like the video, drop a comment, subscribe. This channel exists to sharpen your mind, protect your spirit, and awaken the man inside you who refuses to be broken. You've been asleep long enough. Now it's time to wake up and rise.